G'day guys, welcome to episode 25 of the FC24 Chelsea Career Mode series here on the Critic Kebab channel. European football, here we come. What a topsy-turvy season it has been, with the results against Tottenham and West Ham in the last week. If we can replicate performances like we did have in those games for the remaining games of this season, we might just find ourselves in a European place for next season. And coming into this campaign, that was the objective. We had to be getting back into Europe, and if we don't, lots of question marks are going to be asked of Pochettino, even though I do think he is the man for the job going into next season. Lots to talk about in this episode, so make sure you sit back and enjoy as the career mode gameplay goes on in the background. But the first big headline that I want to get into is, of course, Thiago Silva. It has been confirmed he will leave at the end of this season. Am I surprised? No. Am I disappointed? Yes. He's one of those players that when he came to the club under Frank Lampard, he was only meant to be here for one single season. And it has turned into season after season, and he has been such an important asset to this club. Not only on the field, but behind the scenes as well. When the new owners came in, it has been such a big transition, and he has been one of the last remnants of the old regime, and he's helped guide these young players and helped players like David Washington to settle into a new country and new surroundings and all that. So for what Thiago Silva has done, it has to go down. He has to go down as a club legend, because he has been such a great leader. He has been such a consistent player, and for his age, it will definitely go down in the history books as one of the most profound impacts to have on a team, because when you get to that age, normally your legs go. And yes, he's not as fast as what he once was, but his positioning, his spatial awareness, his defensive knowledge has been so valuable to this team. And yes, I know he came out of the starting 11 a couple weeks ago, but as soon as he came back in, you could just instantly notice the impact he has on the players around him. And in recent games, everything has been clicking and working in a really exciting and fluid way, which is exactly what we want to see. And Thiago Silva, I definitely want to say a huge thank you for everything that you've done at the Chelsea Football Club. Once a blue, always a blue. Now, coming out of the Aston Villa game where we got that 2-2 draw, where we could have won it at the end, it was definitely mixed feelings, because it was a result that we had to be getting 3 points in, and yet we fell short. And again, question marks are being asked of the manager. But then you look a couple weeks prior and you think Everton 6-0, maybe we are up on the up. But then you get that smash back down to reality when we get absolutely annihilated and embarrassed at Arsenal 5-0. So it really has been some really high highs and low lows. But I am very optimistic at what I've seen in the previous two games last week against Tottenham and West Ham. The fact that we only had 2 games in between them, and the fact that we were able to replicate such great, exciting, entertaining football was really exciting to see. Because if we do get European football next season, we're going to be having to deal with a lot of that. Multiple games in the same week, lots of travel, lots of intensity, high intensity. And the performance against Spurs, it was funny coming into that game. There was a lot of criticism on Ange Postecoglou and set pieces and the tactics that they were implementing on the pitch. And the fact that Trevor Chalobah, the man who also bleeds blue here at the club, who's come through the ranks, finds that pocket of space thanks to Cucurella's slight block. It's one of those ones where if it was given a foul, I would have understood it, but it would have been soft, and you want to see goals like that given, because it was such a great header. Chalobah connecting those neck muscles and just guiding it into the top corner. From that distance as well, that is no easy feat. Things like that cannot go understated. Trevor Chalobah has been such a reliable young player for us, and yes, he's been injured for most of this season, but since he's made his debut and he scored that amazing long-range goal, I've really liked this guy. And I think he has to be one of those players that we consider for the future. Not because he's one of the best up-and-coming centre-backs, I don't think he will be, but I just think he's a versatile squad player that loves the club and is just happy to be around. So if he's maybe that third, fourth choice that we have, and we have, Levi Colwill and Wesley Fofana ahead of him, I'd be totally content with that. I understand there's a PSR and financial fair play of it all, and we might be able to get some profit for him. But personally, I just think he's going to be such a great asset for this long-term project that we have moving forward. That was the first goal, and then the second one came from none other than Nicholas Jackson, the man who has been tormenting my soul so far this season because he does so much right, but in front of goal, he's just not clinical. But he was in the right place, in the right time, after what was an artistic free kick shot by Cole Palmer, comes off the woodwork, and Palmer picks himself up one of the coolest assists you'll ever see in a football match. Jackson, first to react, in the right position, and again, similar to Chalobah, just connects his head with the ball so pristinely, and it just flies into the back of the net, and Spurs caught unaware. They were not good in this game, that is for sure. It's surprising because they did start the season so well, but then when Pochettino went to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and we demolished them 4-1, that is where their season started to unravel. And look, in the context, they will be happy with a 5th place spot, I think, come the end of the season. And it disappoints me because I think our team is far superior to Spurs, and yet they're ahead of us on the table. So that drives me up the wall. But I think Ange Postecoglou is definitely going to be implementing some interesting things at that club because he's changed the culture. Now he just needs to find a few players that are going to fit more better with his tactics, so to speak. But Pochettino doing the double over Spurs, I think that'll do wonders for him internally because obviously he definitely has a soft spot for Spurs. But to be able to get 2 wins over them, I think that just, again, is going to put him in that mindset of he's at Chelsea now. And we need to be getting 3 points, especially when we go into these London derbies. Then, as I said before, 2 days later, we transitioned back at Stamford Bridge against West Ham. And I have to say, that is probably one of the worst performances I've seen from an opposition side at Stamford Bridge in recent memory. David Moyes, I actually have a soft spot for this guy. I really do appreciate his mindset and philosophy and the way he approaches the game. He's very pragmatic. He understands Premier League football. He knows how to get a result when you have not superior players to the opposition, when you're looking at players like teams like Man City and Arsenal, etc. But in saying that, the game against Chelsea, they were just so passive. They sat back, they were deep, and they just allowed Chelsea to find those pockets of spaces, get touches on the football, and move into the channels and just deliver piercing, direct passes into the attacking phases of play. And we got shots on goal and we scored goals. And it was one of those games to see us drub 5-0 into the back of the net. It was honestly great to witness. And it was not so much the fact that we scored goals, but the way we scored them, the build-up play, passing out from the back, seeing Cucurella become inverted as that left back, kind of sit in the pivot role next to Caicedo and just be another passing option. But then on the counter-attack and defensively, he's making those one-on-one tackles, he's making those interceptions, he's winning those duels. And as a new role, I think that's really exciting to see because he's never been that left back that can play on the overlap, constantly getting forward and running up and down that left back flank like a Ben Chilwell, so to speak. So I think he definitely works better inverted, where he's able to get more on possession and help out the midfielders like Caicedo and Gallagher, who's also been playing in that position recently, and again has been doing absolutely amazing, getting on the score sheet once again with a great volley into the back of the net. And it's great to see so many of these players that we have been wanting to succeed in the last several months. Now it's all starting to click. Obviously, Cole Palmer has been a huge standout. He's been picking up all the awards this month. He got Men's Player of the Year at the Chelsea Awards, but then he got Goal of the Month and Premier League Player of the Month as well. He's just been popping off on all the awards. He's the first Chelsea player since Eden Hazard last won Premier League Player of the Month. So that just says it all, in my opinion. He's that good. He's goal contributing with the likes of Lampard and Drogba from the past. And for our debut season at Stamford Bridge, that is quite simply incredible. But now that we've had a week off since the West Ham game, there's lots of positives to take away from it. I think Madueke and Jackson and Gallagher and Palmer and Caicedo, they're all starting to get in a really good momentum now. Plus, we have players coming back from injury like Nkunku, like Leslie Ukachukwu, who may feature in that CDM position as a bit of cover for Caicedo. But then, of course, we have the skipper, Reece James. Probably going to be featuring in the squad. Personally, I don't want to see him get too many minutes for the remainder of the season. I just want to make sure he gets to the end of the season and then has more time to recover and then can come back strong in the pre-season tour. And Pochettino, in his pre-match press conference, did say that he is planning for that pre-season tour over in America with the sporting directors. So in my book, that again confirms what I've been saying for weeks. Pochettino knows he's not getting the sack, and he will be here for the remainder of his contract, that is for sure. But in saying that, with all the recent developments with Manchester United basically capitulating in the most dramatic of fashions, they are most likely going to be missing out on European football, and they have handed on a silver platter to the Chelsea Football Club that 7th spot. And personally, I know for some people Conference League is that mean competition. I honestly don't think too much of it. But if we do qualify for the Conference League by getting that 7th spot, there's actually a part of me that thinks maybe that's going to be like an exciting campaign because it's a new European competition that we haven't won and Chelsea have won it all. So if we go into that competition, I'm more than confident that we would win it. So it would just be another European trophy to add to the cabinet. But of course, Newcastle is in amongst it as well. They may drop points and then we might push above them into a Europa League position. Either or, I'm not too fast. The Champions League is definitely beyond us. Aston Villa, who have been pretty good despite their Conference League departure recently, I think they've been quite good and will deserve a Champions League spot for next season. But if Chelsea can get a form of European football next season, it's going to allow us to get more funds coming into that, into the club, which means we'll allow ourselves to be a bit more extravagant in the upcoming transfer window. And I think that's where a lot of the thinking behind the scenes will be taking place in terms of what is our strategy going to be, and that will only be determined based off where we finish at the end of this season. Because I desperately think we need to get an elite striker to play up top, and then Nicholas Jackson could be either that second option to come off the bench, or potentially he could play on the left wing and play ahead of Mudryk. That could also be an option. But regardless, there's definitely lots of exciting stuff happening at the football club. But I've said it once before and I'll say it again. Mauricio Pochettino, lots of question marks are being asked of him in the media, and I think personally he is the man for the job. He must stay at the club because we are so desperate for stability. After Graham Potter got kicked out the door, after basically being 1 foot in the door and he was basically out straight away, I think the club needs to be backing a manager and trusting them in this process to find the connections, to give confidence into the players and build something. And Pochettino's been saying that a lot in his press conferences about instilling the mentality and then being able to be a bit more creative with his tactics. And I think we're slowly getting there. But it's going to be one of those questions that if we don't get European football at the end of this season, do the owners decide a change is necessary? Personally, I think we need to stay with Pochettino because I've seen enough positives from this side. The fact that we are, competing against the top 4 clubs like Man City, like Liverpool, like Arsenal, but we just are getting unfavourable results in one-off games till games like, Sheffield and Burnley, and then, of course, that Arsenal 5-0 loss. Yes, it's been a very up and down season, but I've seen enough positives to put my trust in Pochettino. And I know for some Chelsea fans, that will be an unfavourable and an unlikable verdict, but I just think there's something about Pochettino that there was times after the Wolves game where I thought, nah, this guy, I'm getting very close to thinking he needs to get booted out the door as well. But with recent performances, it's hard not to be a fickle fan. But I'm very optimistic based off the last 2 games. In terms of the football I've seen, that Pochettino may guide this Chelsea team, this young Chelsea team, to some glory in our near future. And getting to a Carabao Cup final and an FA Cup semi-final, and if we can get European football, it's a decent first season for Mauricio Pochettino. So those are my thoughts on everything that's been going on. Of course, we're going to be flying into the game against Nottingham Forest, and I want to make sure that you are contributing down in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think Pochettino should stay next season? Of course, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you in my instant match reaction after the game against Nottingham Forest. Come on, you Blues.